The Book of Boba Fett Episode 6 From the Desert Comes a Stranger has finally been released, and all I can say is wow. We got an ominous look at the horrid events of Operation Nightfall and Anakin's march on the Jedi Temple, the long-awaited meeting of Luke and Ahsoka, and the biggest decision of Grogu's life. So let's break down everything that went down in this incredible episode and how it connects to the other Star Wars books, comics, TV shows, and games. As always with these videos, remember to leave your episode rating out of 10 in the comments and subscribe for a whole lot more Book of Boba Fett content throughout the show. So the episode begins right off among the moisture farms of Tatooine, where a group of Pykes are in the middle of a spice deal, exchanging many New Republic credits for Sansanna spice. Immediately you'll probably notice a nice little Easter egg referencing the ice cream machine man in Empire Strikes Back, Willrow Hood. In that movie he holds a Camtono under his arm during the escape, and you can see the same being used here to hold credits. It was also used by the client back in Mando Season 1. Right after that, the Marshal of Mos Pelgo himself, Cobb Vanth, makes an appearance to stop this spice deal before it can go any further. You guys will obviously remember him from the Mandalorian Season 2 with the Krayt Dragon fight, but he actually originates from the Aftermath series of novels, where he collects Boba Fett's armor from a Jawa crawler. Awesome to see him in the flesh and in live action. In a beautiful display of speed, Vanth then manages to kill all of the Pykes except one after they try to kill him, but he leaves one alive. The reason he does this is to send a message to the leadership of the Pykes that Mos Pelgo is off limits for their operations. Again, connecting to the Star Wars novels, Mos Pelgo was first introduced in the Aftermath series, where it was simply known as Freetown, and that'll become very important later in the video. After this, Cobb Vanth kicks over the spice so that it doesn't get into circulation, before we jump over to Mando in his brand new N1 starfighter. Mando then jumps to a very interesting planet which doesn't yet have a name, and has only been seen in the comics. This is the temple world of Luke Skywalker and the location of his new Jedi school. As we cut down to the surface, we're greeted right away by the legendary astromech droid of Anakin and Luke Skywalker, R2-D2. Mando then tells the little astromech that he's looking for a man named Skywalker so that he can see Grogu once more. While looking through the forest for Luke and Grogu, a really strange walking droid appears in the distance. These droids are known as ant droids, and this is their first ever appearance. These droids are currently in the process of constructing Luke's first Jedi temple, the same one we see burned down in The Last Jedi and also attended by students in the Rise of Kylo Ren comics. This is the humble beginnings of Luke's new order. Either way, Luke is nowhere to be seen, so Mando takes a seat and simply waits for someone to greet him. Following this, we cut to the man we've all been waiting for, Luke Skywalker himself, communing with Grogu in the same way that he did with Ahsoka Tano. Write down in the comments right now what your exact reaction to this scene was, because I just blew up. I just have to say that the deepfaking on Luke in this scene is really a step up from the Mandalorian Season 2 finale, and honestly looks close to indistinguishable. This is probably helped along significantly by the fact that Lucasfilm recently hired a YouTuber named Shamook to help with their deepfaking. He is known for doing many Star Wars deepfakes like Han in Solo: A Star Wars Story and Leia in Rogue One. After this, Luke takes Grogu for a walk through the forest to tell him about a very wise Jedi Master that he once knew, Yoda. He gets into the story, but because Grogu can't walk very fast for his size, Luke hilariously uses the Force to push him along. During his journey, Luke tells Grogu Yoda's famous quote, "Size matters not," from his training on Dagobah in The Empire Strikes Back, before asking him if he can even remember back home. Now, we know from Ahsoka in The Mandalorian Season 2 that Grogu has suppressed his memories and even his Force sensitivity to protect himself after Order 66, so Luke helps him to remember using the Force to guide his mind. Now, this is where things get absolutely crazy. Grogu is thrusted into a painful and traumatic flashback of Operation Nightfall and Anakin Skywalker's attack on the Jedi Temple from Revenge of the Sith. Inside, we see three brave Jedi Knights staring down Anakin's 501st clone troopers as they raid the Jedi Temple on the Republic's darkest day. This is actually the first time we've seen the raid on the Jedi Temple from inside in canon, and even in Legends we really only saw it in the Battlefront and Revenge of the Sith games. Cutting back to Mando, while he waits for Grogu, he is swiftly woken up by the presence of Ahsoka Tano. Now, of course, we saw her appear in The Mandalorian Season 2, but she originates in the 2008 Clone Wars animated series and was the Jedi apprentice to Anakin Skywalker. Ahsoka even references this fact by saying, "I'm an old friend of the family," to Mando. Now, Ahsoka then takes Mando on his own little walk and begins asking him the tough questions. Is he doing this for Grogu or himself? Why does he really want to see the child? Mando then tells her that he wants to give Grogu the Beskar gift because it is his right as a Mandalorian foundling. But in return, she asks, is he a foundling or a Jedi Padawan? This indicates a huge upcoming decision for both Mando and Grogu. Grogu's comes later in the episode, but one much bigger is coming for Mando. Grogu will be forced to choose between his Mandalorian lineage and his old Jedi way. Whichever way he chooses, Ahsoka warns Mando that if he visits him up close, it will only make things harder. Because of this, Mando hands the gift to Ahsoka and lets her deliver it to him for him. Following this, Grogu watches Din jet off in his Naboo starfighter inside of a backpack on Luke's back. This is a perfect mirror of Yoda riding on Luke's back in The Empire Strikes Back, this time with the species reversed. And yes, I said back about 40 times in that sentence, but you guys get what I mean. Honestly, it's a great little parallel, and it's really showing that Luke is passing down exactly what Yoda taught him to the next generation. As George Lucas always says, it's like poetry. It rhymes. During his training to help Grogu force jump for the first time, he gives a slightly modified version of Yoda's statement, "There is no try, do or do not." Luke says, "Don't try, do," further passing down Yoda's teachings from Dagobah. After this, Luke takes Grogu on the training course through the bamboo forests of his temple planet, before pulling out his green lightsaber and even the training droid that he used to practice deflecting blaster bolts in A New Hope. I literally gasped when this scene came up, so I don't know about you guys, but what a scene. Following Grogu's defeat of the wretched training droid, Ahsoka mentions that Luke is teaching him well, but in response, Luke says, "It's more that he's remembering than I'm teaching him." This might actually be a little loophole to save retconning who Luke's first student really was. The Rise of Kylo Ren comics and some other sources establish that Ben Solo was actually Luke's first student, so if Grogu is just remembering things more than Luke's teaching him, it's a small little loophole. Definitely still dodgy, but it's one of those certain point of view type deals. Plus, later in the episode, we definitely get more of a solid answer on that. And that probably tells us which decision Grogu is going to make when he has to choose between the lightsaber and the chainmail. After Ahsoka hands Luke the gift from Mando, she mentions, "You're so much like your father." I'm sure this sent a tear down most of you guys' faces, but this is a clear reference to her time spent studying under Anakin during the Clone Wars. As soon as the encounter ends, Ahsoka leaves in an ominous way, leaving Luke to wonder whether he will see her again. This could actually be a hint towards Ahsoka finally making the first big steps towards searching for Ezra Bridger and Grand Admiral Thrawn, who were cast off into the unknown regions at the end of Star Wars Rebels. We know she was already gathering information about Thrawn back on Corvus, so maybe she finally has enough to begin the journey. Moving back into Jabba's palace, all of the members of the gang that Boba Fett has gathered meet and begin planning their next move against the Pykes. Fennec then says that with Black Chrysanthemum and Mando joining, they now have enough muscle to protect Mos Espa, but not enough numbers for an all-out war. Hearing this, Mando proposes a solution which leads him to jet off all the way to Mos Pelgo. Not to mention, on the way to Mos Pelgo, a group of Jawas are hauling the skeleton of a Krayt Dragon, or at least the head. This could be the one Mando and Cobb Vanth took down in the Season 2 premiere, or it could be a fresh catch. More likely to be the same one though, as those beasts aren't too easy to take down. Mando then courts Cobb Vanth to lead a garrison for him inside of the local cantina, and inside you can see a nice little Easter egg back to that Mando Season 2 premiere. They're using the ribcage of a Krayt Dragon that they captured as an ornamental piece. Nice continuity there from the previous seasons. Funnily enough, Cobb Vanth has renamed Mos Pelgo to Freetown again, meaning they bounce between Mos Pelgo and Freetown at least 4 times. Definitely a nice little Easter egg from the Aftermath books, but just a bit weird timing wise. After this, an ominous figure begins approaching Freetown, which panics Cobb Vanth, leading him to ward everyone inside. As the figure gets closer, we find out that it is the absolutely legendary bounty hunter Cad Bane. Cad Bane was renowned as one of the absolute best and most lethal bounty hunters in the galaxy during the time of the Clone Wars. He was an infamous Jedi killer and was even good friends with Jango Fett before his death. Now after his entrance, Cad Bane gets into a fierce western standoff with Cobb Vanth, demanding that the Pykes be allowed free reign through Freetown. Bane eventually blasts both Vanth and his deputy to the ground, presumably putting an end to both for good. Although it's Star Wars, so you never know. This whole western standoff is actually a huge callback to Cad Bane's original western standoff with Boba Fett in the final days of the Clone Wars. In that unfinished episode of the Clone Wars, Boba was fed up with Bane treating their hostages inhumanely, so he rebelled and got into a showdown with him. Both fired their blasters at the exact same time, with one striking Bane in the head and the other striking Boba in his helmet. This is where Boba got his infamous helmet dent from. And we know from Star Wars The Bad Batch that Cad Bane managed to survive this fight just by putting a cybernetic patch on his head, probably restoring most function. Now, the reason Cad Bane says should have kept your armor is because he is remembering this exact fight during the Clone Wars and how the exact same armor of Boba Fett saved the young boy's life. Amazing Easter egg and connection from Dave Filoni. Back inside the sanctuary on Mos Espa, 2 ominous looking Pykes enter the building and drop off a small Camtono. Now inside this Camtono is not money like we saw at the start of the episode, but instead explosives which send the whole cantina into a fiery ball of smoke and ash. We have no idea if this is the end for Garsa Fwip, but hopefully not, as she's a great recurring character. Back on Luke's temple world, we enter the first hut that has been built. In the background, you can possibly see some of the ancient Jedi texts from The Last Jedi. This would make a lot of sense, as just recently in the comics we've seen Luke begin to collect these from ancient Jedi sites across the galaxy. After this, Grogu is then presented with a gift from Mando and one massive choice. He must either choose the lightsaber and stay with Luke to become his first student, or choose the armor from Mando and become a Mandalorian. Now, this is a bit of a retcon to the Darth Vader comics because Luke says that the lightsaber is that of Master Yoda. In the Vader comics, we see Masamita incinerate Yoda's lightsaber, but I'm sure he must have made multiples, so it's not that big of a deal. And plus, they have recently released a new reference book on Dagobah, and we see that Yoda's lightsaber is stashed there even after it was incinerated by Masamita, so it's obviously a different one. Either way, I hope you enjoyed that breakdown of the Book of Boba Fett, Chapter 5, including Luke Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano, Cobb Vanth, Cad Bane, and many, many more. Thanks so much for watching, really hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you come back in the next one. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one. If you made it this far in the video, first of all, I love you, and second of all, comment, thank Mr. Cad Bane.